And that's a debate too, is what should you put in your basics curriculum? What is basic?
Yeah, well, there's the whole argument of how many hours or how much mat time
Mhm.
dictates white versus blue, blue versus purple, purple versus
Mhm.
brown. Like,
I think I think it's interesting that in the jiu-jitsu world, it's small, but it's also very clicky and culty that we will say, like, unless a school does it the way that my school does it or that I prefer, everyone else is trash. I don't know why we can't just be like, listen, the style of jiu-jitsu that how this school does it is different than mine, but at the end of the day, it's still jiu-jitsu. Why don't you guys just find which one you like the best? And the reason I know their answer to it is because it's money. People don't want to send another person to another school. So what happens is when someone comes in and they're like, "Hey, do you guys like train light? And like, can I learn self-defense? And can I do this?" What does every school say? Of course, come on in, versus like that's not a great standard of care. You should be like, listen, our school is not for you. We don't have a program or an environment that would fit that. Why don't you go see my buddy that's down the road? And it's like a referral program. No one does that.
hmm yeah, that'd be
Because we're trying to, that's the last dollar, right?
they're trying to
Um,
retain as many students as they can, but
yeah. It's it's an interesting thought. And not to like, I'm not saying Gracie by no means do I want anybody to think that I'm a giant supporter of Grace University. I think it's gross how sometimes they will try to say that what they do is gross is sometimes they will try to say what they do is the best, is better versus, and they put everybody else down here
mhm.
versus saying what we do is different than everybody else. That's okay. But when you try to say like we're the best and you try to like make all the arguments and belittle everybody else, that's where the problem starts to come in.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but it's easier for marketing. It's like if you're a person that's trying to make a decision, who are you going to go with? You're going to go with the best. You're just gonna find all the videos and articles that write that you're the best, and then you go that way.
What do people
Versus,
type into YouTube? They type in best way
and
to.
this is a quick story, and then I got to get out of here. But like, I got to go to a seminar one time with Roy Dean. I don't know if do you know who that is.
I recently just read his book, Black Belt Mindset.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
cool dude. And so I was at a seminar and he was attending it, and then we went to all go out to eat after. Like the guy that hosts the seminar was like, "Hey, we have reservations at this place. Whoever wants to come can come." And so I went, and Roy Dean was there, and I got to sit like right across from him, and I was like kind of fanboying out because he was one of the first people that I saw who actually had like content on YouTube back in 2007 and 8, versus everyone
yeah,
else had like crappy like cell phone footage of them doing an arm lock. He actually had like production based stuff.
and he talks about that in his book. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
read his book.
I have not. I
It's
should.
it's a really good book. I'll link that in the description too.
Yeah.
It's really good. He actually talks about how his transition went from like you said, like recording the moves
Hmm.
into like the digital age of it. And he said that's why I think it was blue belt requirements.
Hmm.
He said that's why he thinks it did so well is because people actually got something that they craved from jujitsu that they've never
Sure.
got before. So
Yeah. And to then, so he started talking about like that. So he told me a lot about that. And then he told me, because he actually has a background, he probably says this in his book, but he has a background in film. He
yeah.
went to school for film. So like when he started training jujitsu and he was like, well, there's no actual good quality of anything. So he just like started doing it, which is smart. He found a hole in the market and solved the problem. And then he though was telling me though that out of all the series he has made, he's made like all different ones. Still to this day, the number one that is sold is like, he has white belt requirements, blue belt requirements, purple belt requirements, black belt requirements. What do you think is the number one the most sold?
Blue belt.
No, black belt. Because the best, what'd you just say? Best arm lock.
Okay.
So people associate that if I just skip everything else and I go straight to the black belt techniques, therefore I am learning the best.
Okay. Interesting. See, my mind whenever you asked that question was, well, there's a bunch of people sign up for jujitsu. What's the first thing that they're probably gonna get tailored to is oh blue belt because I know I got into that too. I didn't even know there was a black belt one. I'm probably gonna go look that up right now and buy it.
And so, but he just said that like that by far the number one that sold was the black belt, and he is and to I don't know if he talked about this in his book because to curriculum or guidelines is a good word because he even openly stated that it's guidelines. It's like this is a recommendation of a series of stuff that you should kind of be aware of by this belt. Doesn't mean you have to only know that. You can know a lot more, right? So that's why guidelines is a good word, not curriculum makes it sound like if you don't know it, it's bad.
Right. Yeah. It
Guidelines
does
is
does
like a
carry that connotation.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like the black belt, it's just a guideline. It's not like that all of these moves only black belts can know. But what did people do? They thought that. And so they went and bought it. And they're thinking that like now they can just hack the system and learn the black belt guidelines and forget everything else, but not understanding how it's a tiered thing, like it builds off one another. You understand that because you're in jujitsu. But I can guarantee you also, which I didn't ask him this, I don't know if he even had this as data, what belt rank was it people who are buying it? I would want to know if someone when they bought the black belt series, when they bought it. Were they a blue belt? Were they a purple belt? Were they a brown belt? Were they a white belt? And I guarantee you majority of them were white or blue belts. Because that's what majority of jiu-jitsu market is, still to this day, is that white and
Is
blue belts.
is the white and blue belt? Yeah,
They're
trying
the
to.
largest population. And they've always been the largest population. Because as you go up, it shrinks.
It shrinks. Yep. It's just I think it's with any business as you go up, there's less officers, less lieutenants,
Mm-hmm.
less chiefs and stuff like that, and it just gets more scarce as you go up. So
Out of probably let's say for giggles he sold 100,000 units of that DVD. I'd be curious if like 95,000 were white belts that actually bought it, right? Like I'm curious. I don't know.
yeah,
I'd be curious. I don't know if he has that data or not. He probably doesn't because I don't know if it was even around at that time. But or people probably just bought it who didn't even train jujitsu, but just saw that someone had something and just bought it.
I don't know if he didn't mention that in his book at all that data, but did he mention to you that he did yoga, or
Mm-hmm.
did you know that he did yoga?
Yeah, he did yoga. He also did judo. He studied judo in Japan.
I vaguely remember the judo
Uh
chapter. Yeah.
huh. Yeah, so he did a lot of stuff. Actually, judo was what he found first before jujitsu because he did judo. He studied abroad in high school. He went to Japan and studied and learned judo there and aikido because he also has an aikido background too.
Yeah, and so that's he talks about it in the book where he like really started diving into like wrist locks and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And so yeah, it was just cool to kind of hear that perspective of his. Yeah, I think you'd really like the book. It was
Yeah. Well, I've
it
got to
was
train with
really
him a couple of times, so I've got to do seminars with him. I've got to roll with
dang.
him.
You're so lucky. I would love to roll with Roy Dean. Like
Yeah, he's a cool
that'd be
dude.
awesome.
And he's too. He's a pretty approachable guy. Like he's not like I don't know. He's not like he's actually really tall and lanky. Like it's like
I
he
feel
you can't.
I feel like he looks like 6'2" or 6'3".
He is. He's probably
Yeah.
every bit of 6'3", and he's long and lanky, but he's not like a. I don't know. He doesn't. He's not an imposing figure. It doesn't feel like you know. Like some guys who are even shorter just look like they just kind of have that jujitsu imposer, like cauliflower ear, face all crooked, stuff. He doesn't look like that at all. He looks like a
The Volkanovski.
yeah. He just looks like a normal dude. If you saw him in jeans and a t-shirt, you'd be like, oh, that guy is not anything.
That's
So, but
funny.
he's a cool dude. If he's ever in your area or something, definitely go do a seminar or something.